Hello everyone, my name is Lydia, and I just received a phone call from one of the apartments that we had applied for while we were homeless, and I just think that that is insane and very telling of just how bad the housing crisis is, because I've been 7 months out of homelessness, and we applied for every single apartment in this area and even other areas, neighboring cities, and only 3 of them contacted us back, one of which was the one that we live in, and another one contacted us back like maybe 3 months after already being housed, and then this one 7 months after being housed. Like, what? That's insane. It's insane that these waiting lists are just wild. And mind you, the other ones have not contacted us back at all. It's crazy. Kind of crazy to think about that I'm just so glad that we are housed already, because I can't even imagine waiting that long. And it just makes you really pray and feel so bad for anybody out there who is still looking. Oh, that's really rough. Anywho, today I wanted to talk about how, while I was in toxic mold and then later homeless, it was extremely hard for me to find my identity. For those of you who do not know, I lived in toxic mold for about 4 to 5 years. It's hard to pinpoint an exact date on that, because if you don't know, toxic mold is something that kind of creeps up on you, and if you don't exactly know the root of it or the end date, I mean, you have to kill it. It's like this whole like living thing, so it's kind of hard to know like when exactly we were sick with it, my family and I. So yeah. And then we healed out of toxic mold for a year. Hold on, I gotta see. I couldn't even get my sentence out. I had to sneeze. Anyway. And then we healed for a year outside of toxic mold, and then ended up being homeless. So it was rough, and we were homeless for about 4 or 5 months. But we've been out of that for about 7 months, and that's great. So, yeah. But so much of the time, while I was in toxic mold, my mind was consumed with how to get out. And similarly, when we were, homeless, it was like how, because I experienced both of those with my mom. So, it was pretty traumatic for both of us. And my mind was just consumed with, how do I get out of this? How do I escape? And thinking about myself was just the least of my concern. And so over time, that really took a toll on my mental health. And just before I was in toxic mold, 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Also, Sophie, what the heck? Not on camera. Just ignore her. That's my dog, Sophie. Inappropriate. Anyway. But what was I saying? Oh, but before I was in toxic mold, I was pretty depressed. Like the most depressed I've ever been in my entire life. until I was in toxic mold, and then things went even crazier. But I was extremely depressed. And so in that moment, I wasn't even thinking about my personality or myself or my opinions or my beliefs. And I felt just super detached from things. So, you know, a lot of ups and downs through these past few years or decade even. And in that time, not thinking about who I was as a person and completely living on autopilot, or living on just, how do I get out of here? How do I make the right decision? That was always on my mind, is like, never think about myself. What is the correct thing to do in this moment? How do I make the right decision? Yes or no questions always have a right decision. That was always on the forefront of my mind. And it was just like that for so long. And that took a big toll on my mind, on my brain. I'm sorry, I hope that that's not distracting you. Go take a bath somewhere else, Souffle. She's so cute though. It took a big toll on me. And there were so many moments throughout that where I noticed that, like, this is pretty bad. Like, especially towards the end, it was like, wow, I feel like I'm unable to make any sort of opinion for myself, or like any sort of I don't know, any sort of opinion, I guess, of what I'm interested in. And it was just interesting, like, how I couldn't even understand how to form that thought. I didn't even know what that really meant at some points. And when I was faced with, a question of like, well, what do you like better? It puzzled me, and it stunned me, and it felt like I didn't know where to pull from mentally. It felt like my brain was just scrambling to find an answer. And because it's an opinion-based question, it's like, it's an opinion-based question. There is no right or wrong in that. And so my brain would seriously be spending so long trying to find the right answer. And anytime it was like, this answer, it would be like it almost correct itself, like, no, because there are cons to that, so let's choose this answer. No, because there's cons. It would just have this like ping-ponging back and forth. And it was a complete like identity crisis, truly. Anytime something was brought up about opinions, or what do you like better, this or that, it felt like this whole battle, I guess, within my mind. And I felt like it was an impossible question to ask and to answer. And I hated it. And so I would always have other people answer for me. Always. Like, you choose. I can't even fathom choosing, because I feel like it would take me the entire day to choose which bag of chips I want. Truly. Like, it would take me, like, I feel like it would take me all day, and I would have to write like an pros and cons list, and check it twice. Like, I don't think I can make this decision for myself. And it was like that for a very long time, even after being housed, and just feeling like, am I ever going to go back to the way things were before? Because I knew that this was a toxic way of living. Like, nobody should live that way mentally. It's so terrible not being able to know who you are, even to the extent of basic everyday things. And, you know, I'm sure that there were so many other aspects of life that affected that I wasn't even aware of, and I'm still not even aware of. And I just knew that was a thing I had to correct, but I wasn't even sure how to correct that and how to fix that. I didn't even know where to start. It felt like such a daunting task. Even the most basic things felt so daunting to me to even try to choose. A big part of it started with feeling safe, understanding and knowing that I'm safe. Because I don't think I could have just jumped into it at all if I didn't have that, knowing that I was safe. Because I think that's really where it all stemmed from, right? When you're in trauma, it kind of shows you or teaches you over time that you aren't safe, and that's why you can't choose anything for yourself. Like, you kind of just have to live on survival, you know, and what's the correct choice here so that way you can survive the best. It's just really kind of a wild way to live. And I, a couple years ago, found out about this creator on YouTube. Her name is Yami Park, and she is a defector from North Korea. Very interesting videos. You should check them out if that sounds interesting to you. But hearing her talk about how, you know, she lived in North Korea her entire life and escaping from that, you know, obviously we can just imagine how many things were different for her, like a huge culture shift, right? But one thing that she talks about too is like even having an opinion was hard for her because she grew up not even knowing that existed, like that you just had to sort of survive. At least her time in North Korea was about surviving. And so, you know, it kind of turned you into a bit of like a robot in a way. Like, you don't know even who you are as a person, and therefore you can't make decisions for yourself. And I think therefore you can kind of be controlled in a way when we think about what that has on, you know, the kind of control and power that one can have over somebody who doesn't have an opinion is kind of crazy. And I never thought about it like that before until I saw her videos. And obviously her experience and trauma is far more severe and far greater than mine could ever even remotely be. But watching those videos and hearing her talk about rediscovering herself, it was quite eye-opening to me, because I had never even thought about it like that. And it's like, wow, I don't want to be a person who can be controlled to that degree, and I want to find myself healed outside of just everyday life, you know. Like, yes, I've healed from toxic mold. I've detoxed from toxic mold. Yes, I'm regaining my energy and all of that, and that is great. And that is the stuff that I felt was on my focal point of my mind for the majority of toxic mold. Like, it was like, okay, get out, get healed. Get out, get healed. And I don't think my mind really even went to this area of like, oh, I'm not just gonna have to heal physically, I'm gonna have to also heal mentally and emotionally, and like I'm going to have to rediscover myself, you know. Like, that was so far out of my mind during that time being sick. And I did also find myself trying to go back to who I was even before toxic mold in a way, like, or comparing, if I did make a decision, you know, of opinion, I would compare it to like who I was before toxic mold and before I was depressed, like back in the day when I did make decisions for myself. And it's like, wow, I was a teenager then. Like, that was a decade ago. but my brain just defaulted to like, do I like that? Let's sift back into my memory. Do I like that? Do I like that? Oh, I did like that when I was 16. It's like, what? Like a big aspect of this is not just, you know, finding the right answer and like, oh, you know, what did I like back then? It's rediscovering myself today, not just rediscovering who I was then and trying to fit into that mold, which might seem obvious, but it wasn't to me. It took a long time, felt like a long time, trying to tell myself I'm a different person than who I was the last time I was mentally clear. That was a decade ago. Like, I am a different person now. I've learned so much in this decade, so much valuable information, so much has happened. Life has shifted in a way that nobody could have ever predicted. This has got to be new. And it definitely felt like it had to be that way as well, because like when I would try to compare the things that I was interested in now to the things I was interested in then, or try to fit into who I was then, it felt so wrong, you know? It really felt so wrong. Because the growth had already happened, but my brain just was in default mode, just trying to go back to what that looked like. And it's been a journey. It's been a journey rediscovering myself, and it's going to continue, of course. I think a big part of this growth and this healing that I have done in rediscovering myself was, one, yes, telling myself that I'm safe. I think that's a big aspect of it. I don't think I would have been able to do any of this without telling myself that I'm safe. Because I think a lot of this stems from feeling unsafe, or a lot of that did stem from feeling unsafe. But number two is, as I've talked about on here before, tapping into your inner child and just allowing yourself to sort of do what its instincts is wanting to do, you know, are wanting to do. This sentence did not sound correct when I said it. Anyway, but you know, there were so many moments where I was like, I am really enjoying like a certain color palette. For a little while, orange and teal were like really just captivating to me. Like I wanted everything orange and teal for a minute. And I was like, okay, orange and teal it is. Like, you know, like that's okay to like those colors, even though historically I would have been like, huh, why? You know? And, you know, that's okay. And like, okay, so this summer my style was a little different than it was last summer, or like this summer I want to wear, there was like one summer where I was like, I just want to wear tie-dye. You know, and it's like, you know what, if you want to wear tie-dye, wear tie-dye. And I did, and it was a good time. But it's like a lot of that, just sort of hearing that inner voice that is so quiet sometimes, and just being like, oh, is that what you're really interested in? Because okay, let's do this, even if it doesn't make any sense to you. Like, I've never historically liked this before, and why am I drawn to it? But not questioning it, really, you know? Giving in a little bit. Just a minute. Sorry, I really wanted my coffee, and you know, my past several videos, I've just been like drinking my coffee on camera, and okay, I drink it in a glass mason jar with a metal straw. So, I mean, it's just, and then there's ice in it, and it is just all sorts of clanky, and just, I just, every time I do it, I'm like, somebody out there they hate this, probably. They might, I don't know. Which, you know, maybe that's okay that you hate it, maybe I should just do it anyway, but I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily like that either. But, anyway, those are my thoughts today. Just reminding myself, and maybe if you need this reminder too, just like, you are still healing. You are still healing. And you can rediscover yourself. You completely can. And it's okay to feel like you're gonna have a complete crisis over, you know, which kombucha you want at the store. Do I want marine greens kombucha, or do I want guava? They're completely different. The dilemmas of it all. And there is no right answer, and I think sometimes that is the most plaguing. It constantly reminded me, that feeling of like not being able to decide between things reminded me so much of like that clip of SpongeBob just trying to find out what his name is. Like, he is scrambling around in his brain when he lost his identity. Is that the same? I didn't even realize that was the same episode. When he lost his identity? Is that it? When he lost his name tag? I think that's the one, but where he was like scrambling around in his brain, and it was like an office just in shambles, and there was paperwork everywhere, and they're like, what is my name? Yeah. That's how it feels sometimes, and that's okay. That is okay. Because you'll get there. It takes a long time sometimes to listen to yourself, to listen to your internal self, to even know what that sounds like. It is a small voice that you kind of have to tune your ears to. But you're still healing. And I'll just leave on this last note that, like, I just recently saw a photo of myself from June of 2023. So, like, a year ago and 1 month. And my face had looked so incredibly different. I don't edit my videos. It would take so much longer to upload if I like went somewhere to like edit them. Maybe one of these days I will, especially when I have internet. I choose not to have internet right now. You know, it's just, I got my phone and that internet works well enough for me. And so I'm sorry you're not gonna be able to see that photo unless maybe I posted it to my TikTok. So follow me on TikTok and I might post it up there. But I saw this photo of me from last year, and I remember taking that photo. I just didn't remember the photo. Like, once I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. But I looked so vastly different there than I do right now. So vastly different. And I remembered during that time where my headspace was, and I kept thinking to myself, like, I have healed so much during this time. Because I had been out of toxic mold for about a year at that point. And I just remember, maybe it was a year, a little over a year I've been out of toxic mold at that point when I took that photo. And when I just remember during that time just thinking how much healing I have done and how much different I had looked since being outside of toxic mold, and just all of this stuff. And I just was so impressed with myself and my healing and my growth at that time. And it was kind of amazing. And I took that photo, and I felt good enough to take a photo of myself. And this has been a year later since that. And since then, I've been homeless, and I've struggled with a lot of other, issues, a lot of other different, life issues. And I look even more different than I did then. My inflammation in my face went down significantly, drastically, since I took that photo. And it's like, wow, it just really, really dawned on me in that moment that even though I had gone through so much added trauma after that photo, I had gone through 4.5 to 5 months of being homeless, and then, and like, it was just a really crazy time being homeless, as you can imagine. I mean, and being housed with somebody who, for a bit of that, being housed with somebody who was a complete and total stranger, who didn't have my best interest in heart, who was just, it was just not a very good time or a place to be. And then going through a lot after being homeless, and it's like, wow, and still going through all of that and all of that healing too after being homeless, mentally, and all of this, my body was still doing its thing. My body never stopped healing, even though I felt like everything was put on hold and on halt, and like, oh boy, I guess I've got to, try to heal after I'm housed again. My body was still healing throughout that entire thing. And I think that's something that, I really forgot about. And maybe you've forgotten about that too if you're healing from toxic mold. Like, your body is still healing. Your body knows what to do. And especially if you were out of toxic mold, your body is going to do it naturally. Of course, I do recommend helping it with, bentonite clay and other things. If you ever want to know how to detox, I share everything that I did to detox on my Facebook page. I have a Facebook page called Healing from Toxic Mold. I'm the profile picture, so you'll find it. You can find it if you just look for me. But if you direct message me, I give people everything that I did to heal, and I do share tips on there as well too. So if you ever want that, I'm there. And yeah, it's amazing how our bodies just know what to do with themselves. And my doctor, while I was in toxic mold, she was pretty great. Well, she was in the beginning of when I was sick, and then she had to help with 2020 stuff. So I'm always so grateful that I had her as my doctor in the beginning. But she told me something that always stuck out to me, and she said the body has an amazing way of healing itself. Our bodies just know what to do, and I forget that frequently, but they do. Anyway, that was my little, I guess, uplifting message for today. I don't know. Have a good day, you guys.